I want to pick up.
Go point by point.
Okay, so one or two points you made. See, we were talking about the sales guy not being able to assume responsibility for delivery of the product. And so the sales guy is, number one, as you pointed out, he may be a broker. He may be a broker, so he's an outsider and he's a known outsider. So nobody assumes that a broker will bear responsibility. I mean, people do, but it's kind of limited. But on the other,
but the claims are huge.
Yeah, but on the other hand, there are also people who are, if I may use the word, imposters. They are present in the builder's office, in the sales office. They are not the builder's employees. They are actually employees of a specialized channel partner. And the specialization of the channel partner is by hook or crook. It is their specialty to close the deal, and closing the deal means take the token. Make him give you a token. That is their specialization.
The critical point here is why, first of all, channel partner is just a glorified representation of the broker. Of course, the broker is key to any transaction.
No, but there's an imposter. See, a broker is a broker.
It happens.
A broker is someone who says, I'm a broker. He says, I'm going to get my 1% or 1.5%. He will be very clear about, or he may not necessarily be very clear, but a person asks him, are you from buyer side or from seller side, and so on. But here is someone else who poses himself as being the builder. For example, suppose he says, I'm general manager of sales of so-and-so company. And you are within that office of the sales of that company, okay, of that builder company. Why would I assume, if he gives me a card saying I'm general manager sales, why would I assume that he is not an employee? I will not assume it.
I have lived in this designation for 4 years. I've served in this designation of general manager sales for 4 years, so I know what.
So yeah, basically, so what is happening is false pretenses. Because I will put faith in you. If you say I'm general manager sales of this builder, I will put faith in you. I'll say your entire career is with this company. Why will I not put faith in you? But then it turns out that you are not. You are just there on assignment, and you're moved out. So this is one thing. The second thing is this entire structuring, the way the sales has been structured, with its emphasis on picking up the token and urgency marketing and scarcity marketing, which is misinformation, active misinformation.
You're thoroughly described it.
Now, when that is there, how can you plead good faith here? Now, I am asking you this. You are saying service. When you have brought in this element, this much of imposters, false claims, and okay, you talked about the design, the brochure not necessarily meeting with the reality because of quality control issues. Was there ever an intent for the brochure to ever meet with the reality? Is the intent even there? Because I would argue there is no intent for the brochure to represent reality. The brochure is there to mislead, misguide, misrepresent, falsify, and give the person the most rosy picture possible purely for the sake of picking up that token.
Yeah,
Tell me I'm wrong.
Fairness cream.
No, wait. A fairness cream will have a degree of responsibility in the sense, it is, first of all, it's a small purchase. You buy it once, if it doesn't work for you or if your skin blisters or anything, you'll never buy it again.
Yeah.
Here it is different. You buy it, you burn your hands, now you're stuck. So you can't even just say fairness cream, because I'll tell you what happens. When you say everybody else is doing it, fairness creams are doing it, you're kind of absolving the builder from the burden of the responsibility, which is crushing. It's a huge responsibility, and I would put it like this. Tell me if I'm wrong on this.
Yes.
The kind of things that the companies I speak of very frequently on my channel
yes.
get away with for doing with one customer, as in taking away the money, you're not accepted any contractual obligation, but you forfeit the money, as if the person has breached a contract where there is no contract. The kind of correspondence that they carry out, implying casting contractual responsibility on the buyer where there is absolutely no contractual responsibility whatsoever. So in short, falsifying the legal position. As I'm asking you this,
Yes.
if this same thing were to happen in, let us say, United States of America, first of all, is it happening? And if it were to happen, I'll tell you my opinion. For one instance of this, I think all the directors of the company and the promoter would land up in jail for 50 years. For one instance, people are thrown into jail for 40-year sentences and 80-year sentences in US for one act of insider trading.
Yes.
If they did one instance.
But I would not say everything is very sanitized there. I would not say.
Would they get away with this? Would they get away with the kind of thing they are doing over here?
Not at all. But
what kind of sentences would they be facing? Because some of these companies have presence in UK.
Yes, they do.
What kind of sentences would they be facing?
Business is done differently in developed countries. First of all.
So that
corruption happens. It happens at a very high level, at Donald Trump level. It happens.
Correct.
So
what would happen if this happened? What would happen if these guys were in US market and they did this one instance, whereas these guys do one instance per day or 5 instances per day? One instance, what kind of sentences do you think they would be facing? They would never get away with this, right?
And I wanted to describe the sales process on the same lines, of course.
Right.
Very much within the topic.
Right.
So once you sign up, and please note this is the primary stage, okay?
Yeah.
Brokers and transaction advisors come in when the choice is decreased, when the asset is not homogenized. That is where broker or transaction advisors play a critical role.
Right.
It can be in the financial market where you're trading lots,
right.
or you're trading in securities, or you're doing interbank trading, you're securitizing assets. That's when you need wealth advisors and, as you call it, merchant banking services, which is, in whole, it is transaction advisory or broking.
Got it.
But where the industry currently is going wrong is in engaging channel partners and putting them up in positions which absolves them from any responsibility. And mind you, this is the primary market. You're buying a new product. You face difficulty in selling a product only when you have used it or when it is changing hands. Yeah. Today, you have to engage a third party in selling your cars, for example.
Right.
Because you may not have the time to deal with 10 inquiries every day. So that's where the transaction advisor comes in. But when it comes to selling real estate, housing in India, first thing that goes wrong is the person who's selling it doesn't have any responsibility, or he can't indemnify the buyer if the performance of the contract is not happening.
Correct.
Second thing is the kind of people the industry engages. There is no quality control. They just put in newcomers and they will give any commitments.
Correct.
Third is, the moment I take your money, say I commit, say an apartment costs 1 crore, I commit 5 lakhs. I am bound to keep paying because of fear of forfeiture. And the Indian judiciary doesn't come into much help, as you rightly put it in the beginning of the conversation.
Right.
That is one. Again, I'm coming to. So you're kept on saying you keep on receiving these demand letters, and whether you fulfill them through bank disbursements or through your personal transfers, that's up to you. That's one. Again comes a series of calls from specialized collection agents with these builders who are hardcore recovery agents from the financial in the services industry, like the Bajaj Capital and all these, the credit card recovery, loan recovery, who do anything to take out money from you. All in for what? Most of the projects in this country are not delivered on time.
Right.
There is a huge gap there. I mean, it's undocumented. I mean, you're looking at a 5,000 apartment project. There is no documentation as to which apartment number is actually getting finished on which date, and when it actually, which particular date it got handed over.
Right.
So that's where the whole gray area remains. Because what happens is, one is that when a builder in India, a typical builder is launching a project, it is assuming that if there are 2,000 apartments in a project, it is assuming that they are assuming that 2,000 apartments are sold in the market. Because they know by whatsoever means they're building it and they will be absorbed by the market. And to a great extent it is true also, because India needs housing. Quality housing or not, that's a different debate. So India needs housing. That is a very essential sector.
Not doubting that. But misallocation. So you know that in Delhi NCR region there are entire huge complexes of towers or townships that have been built where the population has not come to stay and which is going a-begging, and where livability has dropped to a very low point. Because, so what happens is, when you have when the market is disconnected from the building industry, if you have created a situation of cartelization and artificial building of markets where price discovery mechanisms have been overridden and bypassed. This is one of my PUs. One of my PUs with the under construction industry in particular. You have found ways to override the price discovery mechanism, and you have cartelized to create an artificial price which has no connection with reality. And
absolutely. I mean, I would say perfectly worded. And I would like to add into this what the reasons why. Because going to whatever understanding I have of the industry, of the workings of the industry, the first thing is, it's just look at it from a very theatrical point of view. You've created, the moment you launch a project, you've created an artificial demand and an artificial supply also. You know that it will be so. That is one. And to a great extent it happens because it's a seller's market.
Okay.
Because the buyers are plenty.
Okay.
Second is, when you launch a product or an asset, a buyer is committing to pay in full for that. Correct? Because resources are involved. So that's where, as you rightly put it, the pricing or the pricing mechanism comes into. Another thing, there are two more things that come into play: speculation and the time value of money. What happens is, when a person commits a certain amount of money on a certain date, a year later he's going to look and factor in the rate of inflation into what he has paid, right?
Right.
So this inflation, this power of the force of inflation is something with you, me, the buyer, the government, the builder, nobody can fight against. So, but the biggest culprit here is the element of speculation. That is there. Many buyers are sold properties by being promised price appreciation, where the end user actually suffers. And because of this element of speculation that is induced into the marketing, because of that, either the price goes on haywire, or in the end, the end user suffers, because why should there be an element of speculation?
Okay.
In the first place?
Can I just interrupt a little bit here?
Yes.
Okay. Here, what you are calling an element of speculation, correct me if I'm wrong, are you putting it on the flat buyer, or are you saying that the element of speculation is on the builder side? Or, I mean, where is the element of speculation? First, I want to understand that.
Both sides.
Okay, you are saying both sides. Okay, so now
yes.
I want to, okay, so I'm not going to make any bones about this.
Yes.
I do not see myself as an intellectual in the sense of I am going to be even-handed. I am not necessarily even-handed. Okay, you can say I am a spokesman of the buyer. You can say that, and it may well be true. Okay,
yeah.
So I have taken sides. I don't claim to be on the one hand and on the other hand. Okay, I'm not an intellectual. I'm an activist. You can say what you like. Okay, now but here's what I'm saying. The flat buyer has no access to information, genuine information.
Yes.
Information is only in the hands of the seller, that's the builder. You cannot speculate unless you have genuine information. Okay? You cannot successfully speculate. Let me change this. You cannot successfully speculate unless you have a certain minimum amount of information. So in order to speculate successfully, with any degree of success and profit from the speculation, you need genuine information. You should not be fed with a fool's diet of propaganda. Or you should not be given a one-sided picture, and you should not have swallowed a whole load of horseshit. Right? Now, let us look at your normal so-called speculative buyer. This guy is told, a typical guy lands up in a builder's sales office. Okay? I'm not talking about someone who is privy to information from Mantralaya directly, who is in touch with the Urban Development Department or in MMRDA, and who knows where your next link road is coming up. Right. So he is not privy to all that information. All that information is the preserve of the IAS officers and the maybe MPs, MLAs, privileged people. In other words, common man, he goes to the builder's office. He's shown a bunch of brochures. He is quite honestly, he is confused. He is deliberately confused with a show flat. Okay, they tug at his heartstrings. They actively tell him, यहाँ पे मेट्रो आएगा, यहाँ पे फ्लाईओवर बन रहा है, यहाँ पे लिंक रोड बनेगा, यहाँ पे हेलीपैड बन रहा है. Okay, they actively tell him to put him into a speculative mindset. They don't tell him about the project. Nothing about the project is told, or anything that is told about the project is a pack of lies. Sir, we have a 15-acre land parcel and only 3 towers in this 15-acre land parcel. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Absolute bullshit. So they feed him a bunch of bullshit, and it has no bearing with reality whatsoever. They give him all kind of rosy picture. They'll say, यहाँ से smart city, यहाँ पे smart road, यहाँ पे smart information highway, blah 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 blah. Where, how can you even blame the common man for speculating? Yaar, if anything, he is the victim. Who is giving him this? Who is feeding him all that? यहाँ पे airport बन रहा है and all. Who is feeding him? Actively. The moment it starts from the very pre-sale. Sir, we are calling you for pre-launch of such and such a project. What is pre-launch? Pre-launch is making you to speculate, correct?
Absolutely.
What is pre-launch otherwise? We are collecting EOI for. Hey, bhai, have you even got a RERA? I have spoken to salespeople of very, very prominent first category builders, and they don't even get a RERA number, and they start marketing pre-sales. How? It's against the law, but they'll do it all the same. And
there's an entire law against it.
So, there's
money.
there's an entire law under SEBI. They are not supposed to collect deposits, but they are doing it, and it's just a fact of life that they are doing it. How are you able to say this is an essential service, man? How are you able to say this in good conscience? This is a brutal business.
It is.
So let us not call them as social workers performing an essential. Prostitutes are social workers. Prostitutes are performing an essential service.
In the undocumented history of our human civilization, the kings actually used to be service givers. They were looked upon as service givers because they would lead a certain territory into an organized way, into trade and commerce, into securing them that the king used to provide them with security and an ideal scenario.
Undoubtedly. But as you know, most kings or most colonialists performed in a way that was very far from ideal, and people were crushed with the moving parts. So yes, Mumbai was built, Bombay was built by the British. The process of building Bombay or the process of building India the way it is on the blood and flesh of so many Indians, and we do not forget it. And we do not forget it. We do not celebrate, for the most part, the colonialists and say, see how they civilized India. We don't do that. It is built on the blood and the bones of people. And while it is happening, see, suppose it is a historical fact, I can forget it. How many people Portuguese converted, how many people Mughals converted. It's a historical fact that happened centuries ago. I will say, forget it, now we have Goa. Thanks to Portuguese, we have Goa. We can say that, but it's a historical fact. Today, it is not a historical fact, it is happening before our eyes. Okay, so one of the, of course, so here's the thing. If you're a gynecologist, you're not going to have a pretty view of women, because you keep seeing all these cases of sexually transmitted diseases, and it's not pretty. So if 10 people come to you and show you their stuff, it's not pretty, and you lose the feeling of prettiness. So quite admittedly, I am that guy to whom 10 people call in and say, Krish, I lost my token, I lost my deposit, I lost this, I lost that. I am not being given possession. Builder has taken 85% disbursement. He has been postponing for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I don't see any end in sight. Or he has taken my money.
And that is
so I am that guy. I am that guy.
And that is the truth, and that is why
we are having that conversation.
We are having this conversation, and we are taking a top-down approach into why it had to happen.
So now, I'm just trying to say this.
Yes.
I don't want to impose my agenda on you. I am aware that I have a place under the sun, and you also have a place under the sun. The mainstream view has its place in the grand scheme of things. I'm not going to try to replace it with my gonzo journalist point of view. But can we at least admit that there is at least a segment, and I don't think it's a segment, I think it is the vast majority, but can we at least admit there is at least a segment of some very prominent builders being completely brutal and mercenary and anti their own customers? It's an industry that kills its customers and hurts them.
May I put it this way?
Yeah.
Everybody in this business has to engage in such practices, and they are engaging.
Has to? Why has to? Is there no ethical way of doing things?
There is.
So why do you say has to?
They have to. If you and me were builders today, you would end up doing it because the industry functions in this way, and that is what
the industry has come to function in this way, no?
Has to come to function.
By whose will?
It's only played by the bank.
So let's come to that. Let's come to that.
Yeah, I'm coming to the bank. Of course, I'll give you my opinions on banks.
Sure.
But I would also like to point out on the factors. One is the banking industry. Second is the bureaucracy. Third is the corruption, the supplier syndicate, and everything. We need to look at those factors as well. Coming to the bank, the funny thing is, as I have documented in my article, is that how can you create mortgage on alphanumeric, on something which is just having an alphanumeric existence, and when the builder is defaulting, or when there's a default in construction, when the contractor is defaulting in finishing up the project on time, the builder doesn't take responsibility, and ideally the builder should be indemnifying the buyer.
Yes.
And that never happens, because I have myself worked with the nationalized bank.
And why is that?
Because that's how the housing finance industry has come up in the last 40 years.
Yeah, but why is the builder not indemnifying?
Everybody is moving as per their convenience.
Yes,
the builder doesn't indemnify because he himself doesn't have control over the pace and the time of construction. What happens?
But he insists on an extremely unforgiving schedule for getting funds from the buyer. It's an unforgiving schedule. It's a brutal schedule. Why is it then not reciprocated? If generosity is expected from the buyer, why is generosity not given to the buyer?
And this actually opens up a huge gap in governance, because there is no proper governance in this industry which allows them to do so.
Despite RERA's existence.
RERA, I don't even consider RERA, because I know the ins and outs of before. I know the era before RERA. I know the time of implementation, what all got absorbed, and I also know that RERA has now become a state subject. So the moment you federalize it, everybody has their own set of rules. So, but the crucial factor here is, you need to understand one thing, is the way builders in this country work is, at one side, you need to see both sides of the story. One side, they don't have control over resources and their contractors. The other side, they deliberately delay projects.
They deliberately delay projects.
They do that
in order to gain from increased FSI or FSI that is anticipated to increase.
Whether it is FSI, whether it is saving cost of finance, and that is completely wrong, and that is unethical.
Right.
So you need to understand why he does it, and also the deliberate act of delaying projects. So again, it comes to idle virtue. I mean, whenever a person is putting money in a real estate project, whether it is commercial, retail, or residential,
right,
look at the builder's legacy of first generation, second generation, third generation. Okay, I like this person. He's so nice on media. I'll put my money there. How many institutionalized real estate builders, developers are there in this country? NBTC, I don't think they have done something at such a scale we can talk about. They have done some projects in Delhi, they have been in the redevelopment and all, but you don't see them everywhere. And not all of them, all of their projects are worth talking about. I'm talking about this scenario like Singapore, where the housing development board was constituted and they created public housing, and that's where majority of the population lives, and people have it secured. There is public equity in that. You are meant to live in a certain way in those apartments, and they'll come and they'll service it and even renovate it. Everything is documented, and that's how it is. And you apply for it, and you get it finally, and there's a process. That's a very ideal scenario. Unlike Hong Kong, of course. Hong Kong, you see those huge towers, vertical slums. Again, that's a different area. All I'm talking about is this very game, the very act of building. Due to these gaps, has imperfection happens when there is gaps in information, and people who profit them are basically
who profit from the gaps in information. Just so
information arbitrary. That is, you play on information argument.
Correct. So your
equity is not secure. The moment you put your money in an apartment, you pay in full, you get possession.
Okay.
The next moment you want to liquidate it, the apartment becomes part of the secondary market. Why doesn't the builder take it back and sell it as new? The builder has to have the responsibility, has to take the responsibility also in certain cases where a buyer has not taken possession or maybe taken possession but not started living there. Again, acts of speculation.
Yeah. So why doesn't that happen? Why doesn't it happen? Just, since you are there.
Because this industry is so highly privatized that there is no control. In Singapore, it would not happen. There are mechanisms to keep that in check. As I say, even the people who are living in a housing complex, they are responsible for a lot of misdoings and gaps.
Totally agree.
For example, just imagine a scenario where the builder hands over a 2,000 or 5,000 number unit apartment condo to them. Do you think in most cases in this country, most of these housing societies don't even maintain them the way they're intended to be?
Fair point.
What happens is you look at a shabby building and say, oh, this builder has created that.
Usually it doesn't happen. No, wait. So I'll come to that.
Yes.
Usually, while yes, the builder has this choice of naming it after himself or not, he need not name it after himself. He chooses to put his name, introduce his name into the, tower or the estate for his own branding. So it is his choice. So nobody would, wo badnaam nahi hota hai. Okay, that is one thing. So it is a choice. Second thing is, nobody holds the builder responsible if after 30 years or 40 years a badly kept building collapses or goes into emergency reconstruction. Then nobody blames the builder. At least I am not aware of anybody blaming the builder under those circumstances, or it's affecting his brand equity in any way. It doesn't happen. Not on the ground. Not at all on the ground. Okay? Doesn't hurt him at all. But on the other side, you have this builder who continues to build poor quality housing, flouting rules, flouting Supreme Court guidelines, open spaces guidelines, fire safety guidelines, everything goes for a toss. Fire safety is, by the way, privatized to a very large extent. So what happens is the fire brigade no longer certifies your complex, because if they were to so much as look at it, they would say, boss, this cannot pass muster. So what happens is they have got some specialized agency who will again not do an itemized kind of a check. They will just look at, they will issue a one paragraph certificate every year. We came, we saw, we found it fit. Finished. It's over. And so the fire brigade will say, these guys have certified, we are okay. Finished. Now, this is very clearly on the one side abdication of their own responsibility. Because if there is a fire, firemen will die.
Yeah. The firemen will die first.
Firemen will absolutely die.
That first is
right. And if they don't, then there is going to be huge number of casualty in these towers and in these basements, which are absolute fire traps waiting to happen. And, maybe the firemen will deliberately keep away from it because they will say, we knew this was a disaster in the making. And we kept away. And they will not say it in as many words, but they will say, well, the sprinklers failed to activate, what can we do? End of the story. There are these the fire extinguishers which are there everywhere. There's a sprinkler system. It's supposed to function. It didn't function. Finished. Over. And let's set up an inquiry for why it didn't function. So there is an abdication of responsibility by the state. In the same way as, of course, I'm not saying abdication of responsibility has happened for the first time. For example, in slums. A slum is also a fire risk. It's a horizontal fire risk.
Yeah.
And, well, if there is a slum fire, I don't think too many firefighters have gone and been martyred in those flames. They will do what they can, and then they will say, "Ha, ho gaya bhai." So there is an abdication of responsibility element within this. Undoubtedly doesn't look good on state actors. But anyway, coming back to the builder, for profit, they are building. They continue to build. The project never ends. There are township projects. We were having this discussion yesterday about this, right? About the projects which are never ending, which will continue for 20, 30, 40 years maybe, at the very least.
Yes.
If that is not a manifestation of corporate greed, what else is it?
Okay, let me describe you one scenario. In US, certain states, there have been reports on how US has grown big in the sense that how suburban US has grown and all these new towns have come. There also the same issue is present in a different way. Where what happens is that since it is all very low built form in the US, these municipalities or these counties, they keep on acquiring land and giving it to private developers for gated communities, and that goes on like a Ponzi scheme. Rather, the city or the municipality acts on a Ponzi scheme. They keep on, because if they don't keep on building, they will not be able to generate enough cash to maintain the township. As I had put it in the agenda before the call, one very big aspect of understanding real estate as a product is that it is no different than your automobile or an airplane. It needs preventive maintenance from the day you get hand over. Even if you don't live in that, every day it needs some kind of maintenance. It's up to you to ignore it. So a city, a district, a colony, an enclave or a condo or a villa development, everything, every such format has a cost. Now, who takes care of this? Whether it's the municipality, whether it's the PWD department, whether it is your housing association, whether it is your township management.
So, generally speaking, it is the housing association, and if you have a township, then you have created a township management, which is a parallel body with municipality, and I really don't know how that works. Quite honestly, I am at
we are not experts in
I'm at loss. When township management funds are being collected, when township maintenance cost is being collected by these large township builders, I fail to understand how that fits in with the local municipal administration.
There are again huge gaps in that. So coming to the US perspective, even
you have urban sprawl. So you have this phenomenon called urban sprawl.
And these urban sprawls are actually Ponzi schemes. They act as Ponzi schemes. If you look at beyond 30 years, the moment you stretch your imagination or you stretch your data set beyond 30 years, these facts start revealing that if they stop building new districts or sectors, they wouldn't survive, because it costs a lot of money to see in any master plan. This is what I learned from 2 decades in real estate. Any say a 100-acre township, you know how much will be actually consumed by the built environment, the covered area? Not more than 40%, because 60% of any space in an ideal urban environment is taken up by roads, parks, and audiences. So you are ending up with only 40% of built area. Again, the actual covered area is a subset of that. Who takes care of all that? Look at shopping mall, for example. If you're taking a space in a shopping mall, you pay 600 rupees per square feet rent. A very high proportion. Suppose you take up 1,000 square feet space in a shopping mall. The loading on maintenance is 5 times.
Right. No. So what are you saying here? What are you saying here?
I'm trying to describe a fallacy, which is global. The fact that it costs a lot of money to maintain a built environment.
Fair. But where are you going with that? I agree with you.
Yeah.
On that.
So, and a part of that has percolated to the Indian scenario where the builder is handing over the apartment, and by the time he actually finishes the project, please try to understand the scenario here. Again, the apathy of the common man, of the people whose opinion you're trying to voice. I repeat, what happens is by the time, in an ideal scenario, by the time a person actually gets possession and starts living in that apartment, it has already started.
100% true. 100%.
Now you get it.
100%.
I took that top-down approach, a global phenomenon to this.
I get that. I totally agree. And it's not even apathy. One thing is how, okay, so you build a housing project should ideally be completed, say, within 3 years, 4 years, maybe 5 years. From the basement.
Actually 7 years.
7 years. So for 7 years, you got an RCC structure which is sitting out in the sun and the rain and deteriorating. Your rebars are exposed to the sun and the rain and the elements and the humidity and the salinity and every bloody thing. So 7 years later, you finally manage to cover it up with plastering and build the doors and the windows and then protect it with paint. For 7 years, you let it rot in the sun. I get that totally. I totally get that. Okay. How? But my question here is, if it were not for, look, I may seem like I'm trying to make a villain of the builders. Okay. I'm not trying to make a villain because it's not useful to make a villain. It's not fruitful. It's not. But my whole point is, when you say apathy, a common man should not, ideally speaking, a common man should never, ever participate in under construction activity whatsoever. I mean, someone else who's got very deep pockets, let them go for it. There is an investor class. There are hoteliers who are earning 50,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakh rupees per day, 5 lakh rupees per day, that kind of money. Okay, restauranteurs, hoteliers, and so on. There are surgeons, there are doctors, specialists who are earning that kind of money. Yes, let them put their money into under construction. And whether they gain or they lose is not a matter of concern to me. But when a common man is induced to buy a flat which is under construction, supposedly, currently the mythology is, Krish, where are the other flats? There are no other flats. Secondary market. Oh, secondary market is almost dead. And it's a fact, it's almost dead. Secondary market is almost dead. Nobody is selling secondary. Why is nobody selling secondary? Well, the brokers are not selling secondary market. The brokers are not interested in selling you a retail flat where the effort is much more. They are interested in taking you to a builder's sales office and dumping you there. Now, and that builder sales office is going to peddle something. They say, okay, we'll give you possession in 3 years. This man says, हाँ, मुझे 3 साल पैसा देने का time मिलता है. That is how he looks at it. मुझे, rather than having to disburse a loan immediately, I will only have to disburse 25% now, and after another 1 year, I'll disburse another 50% and so on. So by the end of 3 years, I'll get my house. That is how he projects it. That is how the business model, I mean, you as in the mainstream real estate industry has popped into his brain, has implanted in his brain like a chip. Now he takes that as gospel. Now what he doesn't understand, the 3 years turns into 7 years. And whose fault is that? Not his fault. Not his fault. It is not his fault that the builder who proposed a 20-30 story tower now wants to build 60 story. Not his fault. It is not his fault that the local administration said FSI is, let us say, 2.5:1, suddenly decides that they can make it 4:1. Or they will allow some kind of special TDR, transfer of development rights. तुम ज़्यादा load कर सकते हो. Not his fault here.
Another issue here is, of course, this is on the buyer side, is that the moment they get possession, they start all these kind of customization. Wait, stop. First, will you address this part? Let us finish with this, then we'll go to the customization thing.
But do you agree with this?
Of course.
So it is not on the common man. The common man is a pawn. He's a pawn.
Leave his vocation or profession and start making building is the work of the builder.
No.
The builder has a
this method of financing. I'm not arguing against the builder having a role to play. Builders are necessary. I'm not for a moment saying builders shouldn't be there as a class. It's like Parshurama saying Kshatriyas shouldn't exist. No, that's an idiotic way to look at things.
Yes.
But builders are financing, and this is something you pointed out in your this thing. Builders, bankers, and brokers are pushing all the risk onto the buyer. So, what is a business activity if it is not taking risk in order to earn profit? That's what a business activity is by definition, right? Now, you have a builder, you have a builder company. Okay. Now let us differentiate two things. There is the house, the name by which the builder is known, the builder company is known, or companies are known, and then so the individual involved or the families involved, and then there are the companies. Now, irrespective of whether the project comes up or not, the families and the builder are going to draw salaries as huge salaries, being directors of the company, being promoters. Are they not drawing, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know, indecent amounts of salary every month? Am I wrong? Okay. Now the company goes bust. They are not able to build. After 4 years, 5 years, they will say we are not able to build. Are they plowing back? Is there any mechanism for plowing back the money from the family? Clawing back the money? Does the bank claw back the money from the family? The builder goes bust. The company goes bust. The project goes bust. They enter into bankruptcy proceeding. Are you clawing back the earnings of the builder?
Let me put it this way.
And on the other hand, you got these people, the flat buyer. He has put 60, 70, 80, 90 lakhs, 90% into it by either directly or through bank loans. Now he is going to pay EMIs. If he doesn't pay EMIs, the bank will prosecute him. He is afraid of being prosecuted. So the risk is being done, as you correctly pointed out, the risk has been loaded onto his shoulder. So where is the enterprise? Now, where is the enterprise? Now, when you talk about, I will accept a purely capitalistic model. I don't mind a pure capitalism, where you say, if you take risk, you will earn a profit. If you take a chance of a loss, which is what risk is by definition, you will earn a profit. These guys are not taking any chance of loss. Where is the loss for these families? The company goes bust. The suppliers don't get paid.
Yes, that is what it boils down to. The whole risk is being shifted onto the buyer, and there is an ideal mechanism here. In the scenario which you just described, a project goes bust. The bank ought to have created taken some collateral from the builder. If the project gets bust, it actually liquidates that, enforces that collateral and either revives the project or refunds the money with interest to the buyer. That is what is missing.
Yes.
In the system.
Yes. So what you have...
A builder has to pledge a significant amount of collateral.
Yes, exactly. Is that happening?
What is missing?
That's missing, right? No.
And that is what RERA is also unable to address.
Right. Exactly.
Experts with 30 years of experience in the industry, banking, housing, property consulting, whatsoever. All members of elite clubs, business leaders, industry pioneers. But
there you are.
And what I feel surprised is the number of people working in this industry, whether it's housing finance or property developers or property consultants, even they have been buyers and customers themselves. with
Right.
their money stuck in projects.
Right.
I mean, I can go on and on. I can't be taking names, but I mean, all of us live in some covered space. And,
Right.
and people in this industry, they themselves are victims, but they don't come up because there is an element of ego which and shame, which basically clouds their thoughts. There's a saying. I mean, I can't put it in the best of words, but if a person gets cheated, I mean, he would not come out in public and say that he has been cheated because it's his ego, which most people don't do that, and that's where the Ponzi scheme. That's one of the reasons how the Ponzi scheme gets successful, because the people who are victims, they never come out
Yeah.
and declare that they have been victims.
Right.
So they play along.
Right.
So
But
you look at-
for the most part,
yes,
I do not know of a single builder. Okay, a single builder. I know plenty companies who went bust, but I don't know a single builder who is sitting with a begging bowl and at any suburban railway station asking for alms,
that would
or reduced to wearing rubber Hawaii chappals
no,
and
that
walking on the
would
street.
happen
Never
because-
happening.
Again, because every project, there are multiple companies.
So they continue to drive around in their Mercs and their Porsches, right?
Yes,
So
that is there.
So the element of risk has been shifted entirely onto the shoulder of the common man. Now, in your mainstream thing, the lingo where you say things like vertical,
Yeah.
what would you call this? A structural defect? What would you call it? Is it structural
It's
to
a
the
governance
industry?
failure.
It's a government
It's a
failure.
governance failure because in last 75 years of whatever Amrit Mahotsav we are celebrating, I keep telling these people, before you celebrate Independence Day and Republic Day, you look back to the gaps. The gaps these 75 years have created, could not address. Instead of unfurling the flag and singing the national anthem, go and try to close these gaps. If you're getting into bureaucracy, be bold enough. Because in my career, I have dealt with bureaucracies. I have seen them. I've heard them saying no to processes that they ought to have taken, and there have been cases where the housing project has been won through bidding, and the bureaucrats say no, it can't be possible. It's affordable housing, and we can't let that happen. So it has happened. Of course, I can't take names. So
when you say affordable housing, right?
yeah.
Society at large, and in any case, state,
Yeah.
okay, takes responsibility for the welfare of that common man,
Yes.
and it says we shall subsidize this house to the extent of 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs, some such amount, some
It's
small
not the
amount.
money. It's
But
not the.
They take responsibility, right? They take the
Take responsibility to make an asset which can be paid by the common man.
the common man, right? The state,
The fact that
the
there is
taxpayer.
a certain salary range.
So a taxpayer. So when you say affordable housing, taxpayer says, I'm taking responsibility, or government says taxpayer shall take responsibility and subsidize it to the extent of a few lakhs, right? Now,
No, I would rather put it in this way: subsidize it to a capital value which is affordable by
Perfect.
that
Perfect.
person, by
Perfect.
that average by that segment.
Perfect. So, but however, the way it works, I believe the subsidy amounts are, just one sec. The subsidy amounts are to the extent of 4 or 5 lakhs or less, if I understand correctly. Correct?
Well, it's subjective. Varies from time to time.
Fair. It varies.
PMAY, for example.
I'm going to give it a number. What do I say? PMAY?
For example.
Hmm.
It tries to address, but
No, but how much? Put a number on
not
it.
pervasive.
Just let's put a number on it in Mumbai.
It has a component of interest subsidy or a kickback.
So what? Let's put a number on it. Let's put a number on it. 4 lakhs, 5 lakhs.
I'm not very precise about that number, but
I'm exactly where you are. I'm exactly where you are. I am also not precise, and I'm also shamefully ignorant. Okay.
no, it doesn't matter. I mean, you don't have to.
So right. So I am not.
It is not pervasive.
I'm not. But I'll say this.
You try to apply for PMAY right now.
Correct.
I mean, you realize how difficult it is.
It's difficult. Now, here is what happens. Here is what has been happening, because I get calls from people.
Yes.
The project gets delayed beyond a certain extent. By whom? By the builder.
Yes.
The PMAY gets cancelled.
Oh, I was not aware of that.
Yes, the PMAY gets cancelled.
Yeah.
And then they are told that PMAY has been cancelled, therefore you're not getting the concession.
Okay.
So suddenly the house that he booked, because it was inexpensive, just became more expensive. Okay? He bought it because he was getting a subsidy. Or let us say there was something major driving his purchase decision.
Yeah.
And now he is suddenly disappointed to have to pay that much. Okay? And now, yeah. Okay. Sure. Okay.